I mentioned that the motion tween will make all the rest of the keyframes for you. Now we know if we have the playhead at the beginning or the end of the animation, we can change those points. I can have the helicopter fly in from off stage by pulling it down here a little bit, and that just changes that keyframe that was already there. But if we move the playhead to another point in the timeline and make any other kind of change, it will add a keyframe for us at that new point, and you can see that I've adjusted the path. Now let's zoom out a little bit just so we can see a little bit more of off stage, and we can add a couple of keyframes in here. For instance, I'll just move my playhead a little bit forward, and I'll have the helicopter kind of hover in place there a little bit, and then I want it to zoom off the stage, so we'll go to the ending point here, and we'll change it from its existing spot to somewhere up above and off stage. Now you can see we've got a much more complex path for our helicopter to fly. Of course, all we've changed so far is the position of the helicopter, and there's actually a lot more that Tweens can handle. In fact, we can tween anything that the transform tool over here can do. That includes scaling, rotating, skewing, so let's try a little bit of that. Now, I'm going to start off by moving my playhead back to the beginning, and I'll change the starting point for the scale. I'm going to make the helicopter a lot smaller. If you hold down Shift, you'll get a uniform scale, and that way it won't distort or anything. Now, if I move my timeline forward, you can see that all we've really changed is the beginning scale point, and since we don't have any other settings for scale here, it's now flying at the smaller size instead of the larger size. Let's move our timeline down to the end of the animation, and let's make a change to the scale here. Again, I'm going to hold down Shift to make sure I don't distort it, and I'm going to make it pretty big there. Now we have a scale change at the end and at the beginning of the animation, so that's going to create a tween for the scale. And you can see the helicopter gets smaller as we move back towards frame 1. Now let's try a little bit with rotation. I'm going to move the playhead about to the middle point. And we've still got our transform tool selected, so let me just position my cursor right outside the corner, and we'll drag up a little bit. Now so far that's the first change we've made to rotation, and it made a corresponding keyframe right at the playhead location. But keep in mind there's always a start setting at the very beginning keyframe down here. So if I move my playhead backwards, you can see that the helicopter will slowly rotate back towards its initial position. But as we go forwards, it's going to hold that spot, because we haven't made any changes from that point, until it goes off the stage. We've already seen how you can stretch a tween to change the number of frames and control the speed, so let's see what happens when we have multiple keyframes. I can still pull the animation and make it shorter. Remember, that's going to make it faster, and notice it still moves all these keyframes with it, so my helicopter still has the same basic motion, it's just faster all the way along. The same thing happens if I stretch it out. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out till it's the full 60 frames that we were working with originally, and you can see that the keyframes have spread themselves out as well. Now you can still change the timing in between those keyframes if you want. You can always get a decent feel for the speed of an object by the dots that are showing up on the path line. If the dots are really close together, then your object is moving slowly, and if the dots are further apart, then it's moving faster. To move only one key and change the spacing, you'll need to add a control key to your selection. On the Mac, you'll use the Command key, and on the PC, you'll use the Control key. So I'm on the Mac, I'll hold down the Command key, and I'm going to click on this keyframe right here, and you can see how the dark blue in the area indicates how I've selected just that one keyframe. Now that I've selected that keyframe, I can actually drag it around and move it in relation to the others. If I move it this way, I'm making this side of the animation, or the beginning part, much slower, and I'm actually making the next segment a little bit faster. What I'd like to do is have a little hover in this segment and have it fly off really fast at the end. So I'm going to hold the Command key down again and click on this keyframe, and I'll just move that keyframe down towards the end of the animation. That speeds up the fly off and makes it hover a little bit more slowly right in the middle here. Let's see how that all looks. We'll go up to Control, I'll do a quick rewind, and we'll hit play. Now, the motion looks good. I think the helicopter is moving a little too slow, so what I'm going to do is shorten up the animation. That'll make it move a little bit faster, and let's try it out again. Now to clean it up, I'll just drag the chopper layer behind the building layer, and we'll see our chopper kind of come out from behind the buildings now.